All right, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining me. And for some reason, I set this up way early, and Rumble is not connected, and I have no idea why. So hopefully, I guess I'll have to pull this down later and post it to Rumble because it's not. I set a static key and a static URL, and it's not picking it up. That's what I get for trying to make things simpler on myself, so we're only on YouTube tonight, unfortunately. Anyway, as you can see in the description, I have Tom Martz with me from the Locke and Smith Foundation, and we're going to talk about primaries here in Missouri, but we've got some other topics, of course, that we're going to delve into as well. So with that being said, let's get the recording started, and we'll jump right into the Freedom Talk.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me again this week. And this evening, I have Mr. Tom Martz from the Locke and Smith Foundation. And he's been a guest on here a few times, and we always enjoy our conversation with Tom because this guy, again, teaches 4 different state constitutions. The foundation he's a part of also grades the voting of all the reps and senators and so many things. They track legislation. They do a lot of great things here in the state of Missouri. But we've got one topic that Tom really wanted to talk about. So let's get him on the show. Let's talk about this stuff. And that is primaries. And Tom is of the opinion, and I bet we're not going to be able to disagree with him, that primaries need to be done differently or be done away with here in the state of Missouri. Tom, good evening to you, sir.
See, I think I got you screwed up because I asked you, should I call you at 5:50, thinking that the show started at 6 o'clock. So it kind of went downhill from there.
Listen, man, I tried something new. I shouldn't have done it. I should have known better. But hey, that's just the way it goes, and we'll just go from there. I can always get the video up later. Not a big deal. I'm just happy to have you here, and we can talk about all this stuff. But before we get into anything else, Tom, let everybody know about what radio station you're on, the days that you're on and times, and then where people can find the podcast and stuff like that, because I forget every time I have you on, I forget to have you give out that information. So lay that up for everybody, and then we'll just dive right in.
Okay, for the last 11 years, I have been on KSGF, that is Springfield's talk radio station, Springfield, Missouri, and every Friday of the month, except for the last Friday, I am discussing Missouri political issues from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., with Nick Reed. He is the person who actually has the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. drive time 3-hour show. So from 7 to 8, I'm on. And there are times when he goes on vacation where I fill in for all 3 hours. So when he went on vacation between Christmas and New Year's, I had all 3 hours of that Friday, of which hour 1 I had Patrick Holland on from the Missouri Freedom Initiative, and then in hour 2, I had a gentleman on by the name of John Bledsoe, who was discussing the wastewater disposal that is being planned for the Pomme de Terre River. And then in the last hour, I had the gentleman on where I buy my raw milk, and he was discussing getting back to small farms, buying your meat locally, buying your eggs locally, getting to know your farmers, getting to know your ranchers, and becoming more of a kind of a self-contained hub where you know where you're getting your food at.
Yeah, and that, the gentleman you were talking about with the wastewater, I've got to get him on for a good long conversation about that stuff, because I hit on the topic a little bit, but that was the end of it, and I liked your interview. I got to listen to that, and I enjoyed that. But I definitely want to get him on and dive deeper into that, because I was running on kind of limited information, and he delved into the parts per million of things in that, so-called treated wastewater, and how these farmers are like, oh yeah, he poured on our fields, and what is it, free, or do they pay him a little bit to let them spray that on their field and all that happy noise?
From my understanding, it started out with them just trucking it over there and dumping it on the property, and I can't prove this, so I'm just going based on what I've read on their social media pages. Well, now supposedly farmers are actually being paid to take this product because it's been denoted to be a fertilizer. The last time I checked, farmers were having to go down and pay for fertilizer. They weren't being paid to apply something that is, for lack of a better term, somebody is self-identifying it as a fertilizer.
Yeah, and when he talked about, things like nitrogen were in the parts per million, and it was so low a level that most people wouldn't actually consider it fertilizer. You start drawing conclusions there, and some people, oh, you're probably being a little harsh. I doubt it. Again, as you said, if you're having to pay them to spray it on their fields, that seems like, hey, this isn't really probably good for you after so many years or so many times putting it in your soil. It's probably doing more harm than good, but we're being generous and paying you for helping us get rid of this disgusting wastewater. But anyway, all right, Tom, not the real reason, but just one of the many reasons that I wanted to have you on and we discuss this is the primaries here in Missouri. We have one coming up here in April, and your thoughts are, and I'll let you lay this out, but you're kind of in the mind, if I don't misunderstand you, is that this is taxpayer funded, and that should not be the way that it's handled. So give us your thoughts on how the primaries are run and how you'd like to see that changed.
Well, I'm probably going to say this 1,000 times so people understand what it is that I'm going to say, but political parties are private organizations. They are not governmental bodies. Therefore, there should be no such thing in the state of Missouri as a primary, because in reality, it's not an election. It's a nomination process. You are not voting for anyone who is going to occupy the seat of being a representative. You're actually picking a person who's going to represent a political party, which will then be put on the ballot at the general election time frame. That primary system should not only be not on the ballot, but the taxpayers should also not have to pay for it. If you want to determine who it is that the Republicans and the Democrats put on the ballot for the general election, you can do that through the committee